Welcome one and all, and thank you so much for joining us here at Little Rock Gaming. That's Gaming from Little Rock. Today we're joined by some very special guests. These are 4 guests from the Sylvan Engineers, a competitive Magic team who focus on the Commander format, and they're here to talk to us today a little bit about the format as it is in Malta and the scene and what it's like. So guys, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. So my name is James Sherdry, and I've been playing Magic for many years, playing it regularly for at least 12 years now, if I'm not mistaken, Nathan. And it wasn't always Commander, and it wasn't always competitive, but I've played a lot of games and a lot of different formats, and now I'm proud that we have a good team as well, Sylvan Engineers. We're now 9 players strong, and we're always looking to see how to improve the scene of cEDH in Malta and keep going from there.
I'm Chris. Hi everybody. I've been playing Magic almost as long as James has, maybe a bit less, since 2015. I think it was right after the Khans of Tarkir set came out. I think Magic Origins was my first set. I started playing some standard or weird kitchen table Magic.
As most people do.
Yeah. And then slowly, it was James actually with our old play group that started saying, guys, we should play Commander, And eventually, we started getting into Commander. Lots of janky brews, lots of precons, and basically I've been with the Sylvan Engineers for like 4 years, I think.
3 years.
3 years? 3 years, yeah. So 3 years, competitive, never look back.
I'm Daniel. I'm the newest member of Sylvan Engineers. I've been playing cEDH now for, about a year or so. I've been playing Magic since Khans of Tarkir as well. And I started the very normal route. I started with Standard, then went to Modern, then into Commander, and now cEDH. Like, I went up in the power scale and went that way. But very normal way to play Magic.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nathan. You might remember me from the Tippet video. I've been playing Magic for 13 years. Like everybody else here on the table, I started with kitchen table. But basically, we used to have a bunch of 60-card decks, which eventually would become 100-card decks, not EDH. And then eventually, I started moving on to more constructed formats and competitive formats. I started playing Standard about 10 years ago. That's where I met Daniel for the first time. And then shortly after, I moved to Commander, where I then met Chris, and we started playing more or less around 7 years ago, Commander. 4 years ago, we decided to switch things up a little, and that is where the idea for the Sylvan Engineers started to emerge. I started playing cEDH along with James and 2 others who couldn't be here with us today. And from there, obviously, we grew not only as a player, as individual players, but also as a team. Someone has already mentioned we're 9 strong at the moment. We're also in the process of having 2 more players currently in the vetting process, where we're also showing them what we bring to the table. They show us what they bring to the table, and we try sort of like encourage them to not only improve, but also eventually become Sylvan Engineers, so that we can together grow and even compete internationally. That is the aim of our team, and that is the aim of each and every individual player in our team, our unified goal.
Awesome. You guys have been abroad before. I know you've been at 2 tournaments in Portugal.
Yes.
Yeah. Where I believe Ed. What was the highest?
Nathan. Nate?
In terms of tournaments, Edward has had the best performance so far. He qualified to the top 13 in Marquesa event.
That's really
This was around a 100-player event. As you mentioned as well, in the last 2 years, we've been also going abroad to play. We've been partaking in the cEDHPT, which is a series of events organized by the team Split Second, in collaboration also with the local game stores in Lisbon and Card Market. These are cEDH events where the attendance is generally well over 100 players. I believe the upcoming one is going to be even 200 players in November. And the idea is that people from all over Europe get to meet and sort of like play the format that we all love and get to prove ourselves against each other. It's very well organized from their side. I give them props from here. It's really fun. We look forward to it every year. And obviously now we'll try to also look at how we can branch out and maybe go to other events in different zones. But for now, we're strictly sticking to the cEDH PT events, and they're very good. They're very healthy for the format, in my opinion.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. In fact, that leads us into the next question, which is, what is the scene like in Malta right now with cEDH?
Well, it's growing, definitely. Recently, we've been in talks with some new game stores as well, who are keen on organizing quite a bit of cEDH events. There's definitely like a shift in player mentality as far as Commander goes, and I don't think this is just in Malta. It's worldwide. I think the power level is increasing slowly, even in casual formats. So people are naturally shifting more into like asking the question, what is cEDH, and maybe this is something that I should look into. So I think that's also here in Malta personally. It's happening. We can see like a lot of players get invested in what we're doing.
It's growing. I started cEDH a year ago. And I'm gonna just kind of share quickly why I joined. It's because I spent so long making commander decks that there's these rule zero discussions of are you playing a Jeweled Lotus? Because that's too strong. I can't beat a Jeweled Lotus. But I'm playing a no color Kozilek deck. It's like I need these cards to compete at any level. So I kind of got tired of this where I wanted to play better cards, but the mentality is that, well, I kind of want to win, but I want to play a fun deck. So I kind of wanted to win and play a fun deck. And I think that mentality is growing inherently because of Wizards' card design. Cards are getting wordier and stronger.
Power creep is a big factor.
Yes, with fire design and everything. So with Modern Horizons 3 around the corner, I think players inherently, the ones who are sticking around in the game, want to break out into stronger formats. And cEDH is inherently an easy step because you've already been playing Commander. Commander is one of the most popular formats. So it's very easy to jump ship. It takes a bit of a learning curve, but once you learn the 300 staples, you're in, and you can start playing. And a lot of players in local game stores, we try and visit local game stores once a week. A lot of players are getting interested in it and seeing people compete with not cEDH decks, and then seeing their decks also expand and grow because their interest affects their deck choice.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to comment on that?
So for now, from the experience I had even visiting LGSs and playing games and tournaments organized by LGSs in Malta, the scene is not big. The cEDH scene is not big, but as the others also mentioned, people are starting to get into it a bit more. For example, if we go for a tournament that is organized by a local LGS, there are a few who try to participate as well, and we're always there to discuss and try to help. The others, if we see that, for example, they're playing some specific kind of decks, and of course we're up to date with for example, there's the cEDH decklist database online, which is a very useful resource for people who want to get into cEDH and want to know which decks are being played currently internationally in tournaments.
We'll put a link to that in the description below, actually.
Yeah, but that's a very interesting point that you bring there, because one of the questions we had is, how can someone that wants to get started on cEDH, what are the resources that are available for them? What are the things that they can do? What are the best practices that you guys would recommend for someone that would like to get started in this format?
If they're relatively new to Magic.
I would say watching. I've told these guys so many times, but when I started playing cEDH, I really wanted to jump the gun. I remember James plays Magda, and Magda was my first cEDH deck. I love Magda, and I just wanted to play. But then I played my first game, and I remember it's like, I don't know if I should kill that creature or not. I don't know how to interact because I don't know what he's playing. I can't do hand reads. So I really felt like I was on the back foot. So I just started watching them play games, and I started watching games online from tournaments and various YouTube channels. There's quite a few good cEDH YouTube channels out there to watch just their games, and that helps you learn deck lists. Because once you've got the deck list, that's most of the learning curve. Playing is the easier part. It's knowing the cards and how they interact and the whole format.
works.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's a one-off format. You need to know how to play to your out. You need to know what everyone else is playing, etc., etc. I think it's more important in cEDH than any other format. So I think watching and learning and asking, I think, should always be the first step. But I'm also coming from the perspective of before I ever touched the modern deck, I used to watch the modern pro tours. So I knew I've always been like that. But it's really helped me because I went from not knowing what Basalt Monolith and Kinnan do to losing to it many times and learning what it does.
And now
you know? And now I win with it. So the thing is that
Are you a traitor?
yes, you can't beat and join them. But like you need to Nate has a very funny story about it, but Basalt Monolith effectively isn't an amazing card, but it has this one interaction that's amazing.
Yeah.
You can't know that if you don't know the deck.
Exactly.
And if you don't know the deck, you can't compete. It goes from a 4-player pod to a 3-player pod because now you are not going to be able to interact with that player because you don't know what they're doing. And that can also then lead to frustrations at the table. All of us have been in positions where Nathan gets Trinisphered turn 1. Where you're in a situation where Nathan's going 4th and the player going 3rd plays Trinisphere, only screwing him over. Now it's gone from a 4-player pod to a 3-player pod. We're minus 1 player, which will lead to me losing because I need Nathan to interact on the stack for me to win. We need to work together.
There's some game knowledge that is definitely acquired through watching. There's a ton of YouTube channels now that have 10-minute videos about concentrated cEDH games. There are many. If you just type in cEDH on YouTube, you just get infinite videos to watch. And that's also a very good way of finding out what decks maybe you want to play. If you don't want to go on the database, that's also a very good way of finding out what are the decks that people typically play in cEDH. But I think someone that is starting out Magic should first learn how Magic works.
The basics.
Play precons.
Play precons, but not just play precons, because the precons are also
very wordy.
Yeah, they're very wordy. So
play standard.
Or just play the starter decks. Just learn the Magic first, and then get into get a precon that you like. It can be anyone. You don't have to break the bank. Most of them you can buy online for a very cheap, 20 euros with shipping. The newer ones will cost more, definitely, but you're just trying to learn the game. Play a bunch of precons, learn the format, as in there's 4 players on the table, and that creates a lot of dimensionality.
Yeah, sure. It has a whole level of politics that is not present in standard.
It's the only card game that has it. The only format in any card game that I'm aware of that matters.
That has that.
Where your mouth is a tool.
Your mouth never stops.
No. Yes, my mouth never stops. As an upcoming video will show, I definitely like to use it. And it's a completely new dimension. You can't master that if you can't master the basics.
Yeah, and basically then after you get accustomed to a while, you just maybe want to jump into cEDH. Then after that, when you've learned the game and the stack a bit better, because the stack can get typically 7 spells or triggers high. It gets very complex.
For sure.
A stack can last 40 minutes. It's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Where you spend 40 minutes on one spell, and then you go, are we in my upkeep? Are we in combat? Where are we?
What even happened?
Where are we? I'm going to go for a cigarette.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
You can't expect to keep up with that if you don't know the basics of the game. So I think that's
absolutely fair enough.
Yeah, definitely you need to know the basics. So you need to know how to play Magic the Gathering in general. So the turn composition, the stack, the format of Commander. Then we're starting to get into the format. Okay, before going into cEDH, as Chris mentioned, a precon, something you like off the bat. There's an explanation of the deck, the colors. You have to know the colors, basically what they're going for. Okay. Well, with regards to resources then for cEDH specifically, as I had mentioned before, there is the cEDH decklist database, okay, which here you get a list which is frequently updated, okay, with all the decks that are considered to be competitive, okay. So there's a certain consistency. So these are being played in tournaments currently as well. And for each deck, okay, you know the colors, it gives you a short description of what the deck does. So for example, there's a proactive deck that wins by milling cards or by cracking out. So it gives you a description.
The blurb, well. Like, it's the blurb of the deck.
Yes. And it gives you links, okay? Usually there are multiple links to considered the best current deck lists, okay, that are available. For example, it gives you a link to Moxfield, which is a very popular
Normally
website.
it's Moxfield now.
Popular website to build decks, okay? And in these links, these Moxfield links, there would be a primer, it's called, which is the manual, okay, of how to play this deck.
It takes like 30 minutes to read through.
Yes, it is quite extensive, okay? It depends on the player that creates the primer, but there's the introduction, there's points on why you should play this deck. There are points that are there if for example, if you like putting your mind to it, okay, making mental calculations, playing solitaire, okay, this is deck for you.
Yeah.
All right. So if you don't like that, this deck, you might want to check maybe something else. So
nearly every primer starts like that.
Yeah.
This deck is for you if, and it gives you the list of like, if you like playing Bloom, control, and it goes through the list.
So there's no need to worry, even if someone is new and says, okay, I like these colors, I think I like the look of the commander. So let me go in, let me check the primer, let me read a bit about it and how it wins, the hands that you can keep, what you should look out for.
I've seen some that have like every card listed, and it's like, listen, in this particular situation, if you use this, you're going to win the game.
It'll tell you why it's not playing cards.
Exactly.
They're long because it'll say, I used to play this package, I took it out, and here's the full explanation why.
Wow.
I went to this tournament, and this and it'll give you everything.
I mean, they evolve, as you said, over time.
Yes.
The primer changes, and like, listen, guys, I took these out because they're not as effective as I wanted them to be.
The deck list changes. You see the history of changes. There are the comments that people can put in. Okay, they can ask the person who created the deck some questions, and you see the replies. And in the primer, usually there's a change log section, which is at the bottom, which you get the cards which were taken out, the cards that are taken in, and an explanation.
Wow.
For each one. So, when a new set comes out, it's always good to go and check. Okay, because there may be some new interaction, spicy cards that came out, and the reasoning behind them. Okay, and for each deck that you saw in the database, you have multiple. Okay, for example, a certain commander can have a turbo version, for example, that's trying to go fast, or a more mid-range version. Okay. Which is a bit less explosive, but is more resilient for later.
You have to find your playstyle in there as well. Then,
That actually leads us quite well into the next question. How does it feel, or what makes a deck go from just strong, high-power commander to cEDH competitive? Because obviously, the biggest thing about what you were saying earlier, rule 0. Oh, I'm playing a 7. Oh, I'm playing a 6. What is a 7 and a 6? cEDH, that's kind of out the window because it's an unsaid thing. You're all playing as powerful as you can, and you're aiming to win as quickly as possible, or in your own way of doing so. So how do you go from a high power commander to cEDH?
I think when it comes to cEDH, you still have sort of like a concept of a tier list. You can't really put all of the decks within the same group. James and Chris have already mentioned that generally when you're looking at a cEDH deck, you're looking at something with a very focused game plan. The only rule is the ban list. And from that point onward, you're trying to make it as optimal as possible, as fast as possible, as resilient as possible. All of these things are always important when building a cEDH deck, but it is very, very possible to build a deck with that idea, but still not get a cEDH deck. For example, currently as a team, we're working on building Kodama of the West 3 cEDH list. And one of the biggest challenges, apart from the fact that it's a mono green deck, is getting it to not lose versus something like blue front deck, which is a Timna Chrome deck. Being able to survive in that table alone is already a big challenge. Surviving doesn't win you games, so now you need to also win a game. Being able to win in that environment, then I believe that starts pushing you into cEDH. But if you do it once in every 10 games, you're fringe. If you do it consistently, you're a meta deck. If you do it a lot of times, then you're a tournament deck. The tournament scene obviously does elevate a bit with sort of like why certain decks are now no longer considered cEDH. So we've been playing, as we mentioned, for quite a few years, and I remember the very early cEDH meta from before I even used to play EDH myself. You had decks like, for example, Sharum, which nowadays they don't even go in the 99 of certain decks. Where at the time they used to be meta breakers, and like if you saw that, everybody had to mulligan for something against it. So power creep and stuff like that does affect these things a lot. You don't just get the label once of cEDH and you forever cEDH. But I think currently what's making the decks qualify whether they're cEDH or not is how well they compete against like the best 5 decks in the meta. Those decks are impactful enough that sometimes when you're putting a card in the deck, you're like, what if this card does nothing in this matchup? And that is 75% of my matchups. Why am I putting it in the deck? And in fact, you start seeing it with even some choices in cards like, for example, things like Pyroblast or Elemental Blast. The first thing you think is this only targets one color, but that's the most played color. So
8 out of the top 10 decks play blue currently. In
which makes sense.
Which that's another website. Just to interrupt you, EDH Top 16. All of the tournament results are there. It's also conglomerates all of them, so it gives you the breakdown of the top current 10. Top all the decks. It lists all of them.
It lists everything, including the deck lists. Generally, in the deck list, which is generally available on Moxfield, you also find a link to the original list for the player. So if it's someone that's dedicated enough that they want to write a primer, update them, as James mentioned earlier, or maybe even if they do some form of side content which highlights the deck, its strengths and weaknesses and things of that sort, it just links you automatically to it. It's a very recent tool. And it's really nice to have, because especially if you're preparing for a tournament or something, you're going to be eyeing a lot of decks and stuff like that, and you want to know what people that are playing your deck that performed well did. If you have, for example, a package that you're not sure about, you want to see if it's performing well or not in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months. You can look at whatever you want, and there's everything. Even the tournaments that we attend to. So you don't necessarily need to be an event with hundreds, even thousands of players. You can be even a small 40-player event, and they'll just put you up there so everybody else can get an idea of your scene, what's happening, the decks and everything. Meta obviously is a bit more regional. So for example, to my knowledge, in Asia they like playing a bit more aggressively, more creature-based strategies. But then here in Europe we're full mid-range, just value, sandbag, full hands of cards, boards are full, and then someone manages to steal a win somewhere. I'm not sure about the scene in North America there.
It's the same, it's dominated by Kinnons and Blue Farms.
Exactly.
Very value heavy
tournaments show these decks, so I'm imagining it's more or less similar to ours with a more mid-rangey kind of like environment.
To add on to what Nathan said, I think something that's important about cEDH that makes a deck cEDH is that it's part of a meta. So when you have a casual commander, you don't really tech. You don't say, okay, well, in this tournament, I expect to have these commanders, because you don't think like that.
Of course.
But in cEDH, for example, we as a team, we have a season, and then at the end of the season, we do a playoff between ourselves, like a tournament between us. And for that, we all tech for it, because I know what decks Chris is bringing and James is bringing and Nathan's bringing. So I bring in cards that in normal matchups, if I was going into a tournament blind, I probably wouldn't bring. But because I know it hits a lot of win cons I'm going to be playing against, I bring it in. It's that it's unfortunate that I didn't get to see those cards, or in the matchups that I saw the cards, they weren't in. It happens. But you need to be aware that when you see a tournament deck list versus the deck list database deck list, like the original, the tournament one will have some really weird picks normally. It'll have like a 3 or 4 different cards to the original deck list. And you go, what? This feels like a much worse card. Why is it being played?
But it's because of the meta.
And then you go into then you see that tournament, and then you see that there's 3 blue farm decks at the top, and you go, that's why he was expecting a lot of this type of archetype.
Fair enough.
So I feel like that's very defining for it. And then apart from that, that's very unique to cEDH is the politics. You need to be able to put in cards in your deck and comfortably able to say, this card doesn't work well by itself, but it's going to work because I'm going to make my opponents make it work. I need to put myself in positions by making alliances with allies to get to that point. But to get that point, you need to be there at the deck building stage. So your deck needs to be in a position where when you ad nauseum, you create these positions for yourself where you can create fast mana. That's part of it. Ad nauseum's a good card, but it's nothing without the rest of the deck. So you need to be able to build that deck in that structure like a tournament deck. It needs to function.
For sure. As we were saying before, so when you're playing cEDH, there's no real rule 0. You know you're always going to be playing the top level cards.
There is a rule 0. It's the ban list.
And we're all on it.
Now, this is actually another aspect of it, because like, let's say you're new to the format, you don't want to invest so heavily. Now, I know we've been to tournaments which are full proxy, you can play an entire proxy deck, but what is the general norm when it comes to tournaments and proxying? Because some people don't want to spend thousands of euros on the dual lands, you know?
Yeah.
Generally, I've seen that a lot of the time, those are proxyable. What's the norm in this situation?
So locally, it's from sort of like one extreme to the other, where you have people that are allowing a full proxy tournament, where the idea is that you're playing to test your skill rather than to test your wallet.
I want to play against a player, not his
Exactly.
wallet.
Exactly.
And then there are some other events which are keeping the idea in mind that, listen, we're still a game store. We still have our own cards to sell. You are allowed to proxy a few expensive cards, as you mentioned, the dual lens. You know, someone who wants to play Tifit doesn't want to spend 1,000 euro on 3 lens.
Exactly.
But at the same time, the store doesn't push cards if people just come with 10 euro worth of printed cards from the printer next door. So they generally try to make a bit of a foothold where they stand on it. We have a tournament in a few weeks where we're allowed to bring 12 proxies, and 10 of them can be from a specific list of reserved list cards, which are really expensive.
Like the dual lands, Gilded Drake, Mox Diamond, the 500 units. Guys Crazy.
Exactly.
While the other 2 can be any card you want. So if there's, for example, something that you ordered and didn't arrive in time for the tournament, don't worry, you can proxy it last minute. Or if a set happens to drop 2 weeks before the tournament and you know you didn't manage to get your booster box or whatever, don't worry, you're more or less a bit safe.
Or even if it's like Shieldred, it's only expensive because it's in the standard meta. You proxy it for that tournament, and then when it drops in price, you'll buy it. But you can proxy 2 cards, it's fine.
And is that the norm around the world, even in tour? How does a pro tour tournament play? Do you have to have every card?
So
there's no cEDH Pro
when
Tour.
it's
well,
when
pro
it's
tour
a
specifically, not like exactly, but like with the pro scene.
The pro scene, like that you guys
So in a sanctioned event, obviously proxies aren't allowed. So anything that's organized in an official way is generally no proxies. But since cEDH is more of a community built format, which is very true to even EDH, which was originally built by the community, stores are a bit more lenient with sort of like working with what the community has on hand rather than what the developers of Magic the Gathering generally want to work with. Internationally, we do see a few restrictions on proxies. It's still not a full all out. They still want you to have 80-85 of those cards yourself.
Which makes sense, to be fair.
It does.
But they do allow a bit of margin where, listen, sometimes the difference between a deck costing 500 and 5,000 is 10 cards. Those 10 cards, you know, they let you proxy them. But it's still going to cost you at 500. You know, there's still an initial investment.
Yes.
Something which obviously then comes very good with cEDH being an eternal format is that a lot of the staples, you buy them once.
That's it. You buy 1 mana crypt 1 time and that's it.
Yes, I only have 1.
That seems same. I'm not going to buy more.
I actually have something to say about this. When I started with the Sylvan Engineers, I was coming from a background of casual, and Rule Zero was the biggest debate in that group. You have no idea the amount of politics, backdoor politics before the game starts, because the deck is broken and that's broken and he's going to do this and whatever and all that. And when I joined them, I just went through the notions that we just said right now. So I went online to see what decks people are playing, and I got the sense that people want to combo off on turn 1 and turn 2.
Ideally.
And how do they do that? By like vomiting a bunch of mana rocks on turn 1, having 7 mana by turn 2, and then try to stop me. I'm going turbo. So what I did is my first cEDH deck was a Rurik Thar. And I absolutely spent 0 to build this anti-cEDH deck, which literally says, whenever someone casts a non-creature spell, you take 6 damage.
Exactly.
And my performance was insane in the first season. You remember that? I was like, holy crap, I don't have any staples.
It's literally a meta pick. You're casting a lot of spells.
No, you can't.
No.
So people were like, do we have to focus on that combo piece? Like, I don't know. I can't even play my Force of Will because I'm going to die. It was that point. So I guess the idea is, obviously in context, I had already a very large collection of cards that I got from playing casual. So that puts things into perspective. Someone who wants to get into cEDH from right off the bat should keep in mind this. If you're going into casual and then going into cEDH, there's this notion that casual is cheaper than cEDH, and that's absolutely not true.
No, that's a lie.
It's not true, because you spend maybe 200
In the long
euros
term.
in the long term.
Yes.
Short term, there's a spike.
Yeah.
Because as someone who just got into cEDH this year,
There's a spike.
I'm feeling the spike.
Yeah, but like for example, I had,
Dude Lotus was not cheap.
No.
fair enough. But like for example, I had when I started with the group, with the casual group, I used to buy like a deck. I said, oh, I like this deck. So I'm just going to build it. I used to buy like a bunch of meme tokens and things like that. And then I would easily rack up to 100 euros. We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
You buy boxes.
You buy boxes and stuff.
Pre-releases,
Yeah,
everything.
So basically, I would buy the deck, spend 2-3 months playing with it, get bored, and buy a new deck. And every time you're spending those 100 euros on absolute unusable jank, when you can just say, okay, I'm gonna have this deck, I'm gonna nerd it out. The Eurocop primer is about 60 pages long, so you need to actually,
7-1.
7-1, there you go. So like, for example, I would say, I love Yuriko, right? So let me see what Yuriko has to offer. I'd start by proxying out the deck. I learned the deck, and I spent an entire season or entire few months just playing Yuriko and nerding it out and slowly building Yuriko. That is a much better worthwhile investment, because the cards you're going to get for Yuriko can also be used for other blue-black decks.
That's what I've been doing for Kinnan. Kinnan is currently number 2 or 3.
Something like that.
It's top 4. It's top 4 deck. And it's blue-green. I like the colors. I like the deck. I'm building it. I do have other decks, which I have proxies, but I don't really buy cards for them, apart from if it's like a €2 card or something. I have no problem. But like, I've got Kinnan and Shalai and Halar. Shalai and Halar, I do have Dockside, but because I had Dockside from the pre-con when it originally came out, I would have never bought it because I'm building Kinnan. And the beauty is that with Kinnan is that, yes, there's a lot of cards that only go into Kinnan, but Force of Will, Force of Negation, they go into all blue cards, all blue decks, and as we said before, most of the meta's blue. So if you really want to play and to invest, pick a deck and go into that one deck
that you really enjoy.
Yes, and I would definitely recommend going into blue, because at some point you're going to need blue cards if you want to play CD.
Luis is there like, nah.
Naya's away.
Trust me, you've played against my Naya deck. Naya's not the thing right now, unfortunately.
It is fun though.
But that does bring me around to what you said earlier about, like, I play Shalai and Halar. Which is Naya, but there's Rocco, which is the Naya cEDH deck. Shalai and Halar is on the decklist database, but it's in the Brewer's Corner. So it doesn't really have that many tournament results. But part of the beauty of the deck is that it's not also really known.
Yeah.
So that can also be an advantage in cEDH to what makes a cEDH deck cEDH. It can also be a bit lower power, but then that surprise element and that unique way of how it wins can also get you
because people
there.
don't have information on how the deck
Exactly,
works.
and because it's a 4-player format, you can hide. So something I love to do with Shalai and Halar is I love to have no cards in hand, and I can use my mouth to get the game in the state I want it to, and then I position myself in a way where people say I've got a Mother of Runes on the field, and it's just a Mother of Runes. But that Mother of Runes is going to win me the game later because you won't be able to interact with me.
Yeah.
So, but I have no cards in hand, but the colors allow you to work that way.
Yeah.
But the deck is still not, it's nowhere near top 50. It's very low on the list, but you can still get there. cEDH is also a mind state, if that makes sense.
With regards to proxies.
I went on a tangent.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
So we're talking about tournaments, okay? And the series tournaments, for example, the one that we go to for that cEDHPT organizes, the last one we've been to, they had this proxy rule that you can use 10 from a specific list, which is reserved list cards, expensive cards, and you can take 2 of any. Yes, but this can't just be an A4 paper from my printer that I printed in color. I cut it and placed it on
a card
and in the sleeve. Okay, it has to have exact specifications. The thickness of the proxy must be the same as a magic card. Okay, normal magic card, same cornering, in color. The art has to be unofficial printing as well.
So if you print,
it can't be a custom.
Okay.
And if you proxy like a 30th edition, that's also probably, because they're not 30th edition cards, aren't legal.
Technically not legal.
So you need to print a legal version.
It has to be a legal version. And each proxy, so each person that goes for the tournament has to get all his proxies examined, okay, by the judges.
Sure.
So
you also have to double sleeve it. If you're double sleeve, just double sleeve it for the thickness.
Oh no, of course. If you have that's double sleeve, that one card.
Just to make it.
Just to share my experience at the last tournament that went to last year, I had around 3 proxies. Okay, so and they were all from the same printer, and I went there checking them, and he told me this one you can't use it because it was slightly thicker, or I don't know exactly what these.
You get like the calipers, and they're like
by feel.
Imagine the Terminator.
The Terminator. They see how it feels like in the sleeve, okay? Wow. And if they don't like it, but
what did you do?
At that point, he got an actual card, okay, for just planes, for example, a land, basic land. He wrote down the name of the card that I had proxied. It was sleeved in my deck, and then when I play that card, I get my proxy and place it on top of it.
Okay, wow.
All right.
That's what they call the judge proxies, right? Like
yes.
You have to have explicit permission from the judge.
Explicit permission. It's with his handwriting.
Because I guess the judge saw that you clearly intended to proxy it, and
so enough. It's only fair.
Yes. There's still a level of humanity.
In Malta, from the events that there are, it's more lenient, so you can have a card on a card. Of course, there are.
The only rule is it has to be in color. I think that's every shop has established. Like if you have a proxy, it's kind of black and white.
Usually just a blank paper with scribbled text is not accepted. Well, it depends on the
but it's frowned upon because it's an unspoken rule. It's kind of like I would rather see the art. I mean, we all play Magic.
And the text,
but you normally know, like even Mind Sensor. I see the art. I know what it does. But if I see a paper with text on it and I glance over the board, I can forget.
Now, when it comes to playing cEDH casually, okay, so I just went to the game store and I'm playing with another 3 friends.
For fun.
Yes, just for fun. There, for example, speaking for ourselves, Sylvan Engineers, we're fine with full proxy. For example, I have right now. I got with me a full proxy. Roger Silas.
Because we have a guy in the team, Warren, who's participated in one of these videos before, but he's the proxy master. I've known him since I was 12, 13, and he's always had excellent proxies. And now he makes the proxies for the team when we need, but I'm a bit anal. I like to pick my art and everything. So I go to the stationer, I print it all on paper, and I like to sit down and I watch like an episode of Avatar and I cut them up and sleeve them.
I can see you doing it.
And I like it's like a ritual, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're very open to like just having paper proxies.
Yeah.
That's the one James is using, you know?
Yes, because as we said, maybe I want to just try.
Just testing.
Exactly.
I don't want to invest
And I
100
don't-
euros into a card.
And
That might not even work.
Speaking of 100 euros, there's one thing that I want to mention. This is a personal story. It was a personal victory. When I started with these guys, cEDH, the Ruriktar deck, I had no staple, zero. Like maybe the biggest staple I had was like something like a Lana Warevs, I think.
An island.
No, an island. Anyways.
To be honest, it is.
And I had been looking, to me in my head at the time it was cEDH equals Mana Crypt and Mana Vault, right? If you've got those, they go in pretty much every deck. They don't, there's only like few maybe that don't go in. Anyways, so I went
Mana Crypt for sure.
Yeah.
Mana Crypt's in everything.
Mana Crypt goes in everything.
It's 0 mana, gives you 2 mana. That's it. That's it. Too good.
Basically, I said maybe we didn't have this proxy rule before. It was like start buying the deck slowly. So I'm like, I have to buy Mana Crypt because I need to cast Ruriktar by turn 2. Otherwise, I'm not going to be relevant. See, the deck keeps evolving in any case. So I went on Card Market and I saw that Mana Crypt was 50 euros. Yes, and I was like, that's expensive. And I went to this guy like, guys, should I buy Mana Crypt? It's 50 euros. It's really expensive. They're like, Mana Crypt is what now? And now it's 120. So,
I bought it for 115.
Yeah. I got the shiny.
No, I was with normal Mana Crypt.
120, and now it's already like 180.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, keep an eye out on the market for say. But usually, what we do is we have a wish list with like cards in there, and we regularly go on like whatever shop you use to check the price. And the second there's a dip,
Bam.
you buy.
And buy singles.
And buy singles, buy singles.
I had never bought a single until I started playing cEDH. No, I had always bought from my local game store,
Boosters.
you know, not really boosters. I did buy some boosters, but I mainly in Malta, the local game stores generally have binders.
Yes.
So I would go and I'd see what they have, or I would borrow cards for tournaments and stuff. But then when I started cEDH, I was like, okay, now I need to start my collection. So for context, I'm someone that had nothing. I had Dockside just because I had the pre-con coincidentally. The good cards that I had were literally like islands and nothing else. I had nothing. I had Avon Mind Sensor and some swords because I had a Rafik deck. That's it. So I started my cEDH collection from scratch. It is a bit expensive.
For sure.
So there have been moments where I say I've just got my paycheck, time to get, all of the forces, Force of Will, Force of Negation, Mindbreak Trap, all of the free counters.
Free counters, yeah. Free Scarlet
And you say, okay, there goes 300 euros. But at the same time, I'm a Magic player. I love playing with the real cards.
Same. I'm the
So I just bought some cards recently. We played last night. The moment I played them, I said, and I play a real Fierce Guardianship. I play more expensive cards than that, real ones, but it's just fun to have the real
it's
one.
funny. The fewer proxies I have in a deck, I feel like the better the deck performs.
Yes, it loves you more.
Yeah, it loves you more. I think that's just how it is.
You have taken care of it.
the heart of the cards.
So proxies are all well and good when practicing, okay?
Yes.
Because it's not about the wallet, it's about the painting of the deck. And of course, if you're playing with the full list and against people that have full lists, you're playing against the decks at their most powerful form, okay? So even if eventually go to a tournament, you know what to expect, or you say, I know that card, I know how it works, okay, instead of a budget version of a card. But then, of course, keep in mind that if you start with full proxy, then keep in mind that if you're going to play in a tournament, you need to start building your
collection.
your deck and your collection. And it's always an investment. In my eyes, the staples, they're very popular
Yes.
cards.
Take care of them though.
If
Dockside, which got reprinted, is still the same price as what it used to be. It didn't go
you
down.
don't like it anymore, you can easily sell it.
I mean, someone will happily take it off your hands.
sure.
Like,
Oh yes.
definitely.
Yes, no, for
Speaking
sure.
of tournaments, in Malta, where can you go to enter a tournament once you've actually gone there and you've made your deck and you're happy, you feel confident? What avenues do you have to actually play?
Local game stores.
Yeah.
So currently, we're working on trying to expand on the scene. Something that we learned from going to play abroad is that when you have a multitude of game stores that are all sort of like in it, you always have something to attend to. We're working with 3 different game stores at the moment, locally, to try and have a monthly event where like that you have a tournament. As James mentioned, we're not many, so there's a tournament of 12, 16 players. But it still gives you sort of like that little space to be able to test your skills, see what you're learning. And even if, for example, you're interested in playing abroad, even if maybe you're not going there with the hopes of winning and everything, you just go for a fun experience. You still want to get a bit of practice, not just with other decks, but even tournament etiquette and stuff like that. So we are working on expanding that in the local game stores. There's also the Play Up events, which are a local group that try to organize events, not just for Magic the Gathering, but even for board games and things of that sort.
That's how we met at a tournament.
I think that's
100%.
I love playing with these guys. If you
Yeah, that's the one.
You mean you love losing against them?
So far, I have yet to win any games. I've gotten a draw.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get into the scene in Malta, you're definitely going to meet these guys, and they're great to play with. They teach you how to play. They're not there like being salty and be like, oh, you can't do that, or you're going to win. No, hey man, you probably did that wrong. Maybe for next time.
The first time I lost to Keenan, it was actually a very insightful experience. I got to explain, like bit by bit how much mana it was producing, and at some point you had like 200 and something colorless mana. I was just like, oh wow, okay.
And we were in danger bear deck, and I was playing Prosh with like none of the fast mana.
Both of our commanders were 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Just mine has blue and yours only has green.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
But when I started playing, I only started playing cEDH because of these guys. So when I was playing Commander, I've known these guys now for a bit over a year, but I've known Nathan since I was 13. I lost my first ever tournament game to Nathan. We both were playing Mono Red Burn in Modern. And he sent me flying, and then we went to go get Pastitsy, and he told me exactly what I did wrong, and it's a very very humbling experience. With Pastitsy. And ever since then, me and Nathan have been friends. So then I took a break from Magic playing, but I was still in the scene, and then I got back into Commander. They just saw me at a local game store. I said, Nathan, how are you? You know, I got into a pod with them with my high-powered Kozilek. I lost gracefully, colorless. I mean, it's always graceful. Yeah. And that gave me that itch. And then I asked, I went up to Nathan and said, listen, guys, how do I get in cEDH? And then they said, start playing with us. And then we also play online, a tabletop simulator. Yeah. It's very easy to use software. It's exactly what it says, tabletop simulator. You can play anything on it. You get an add-on for cEDH. That way you don't proxy anything. You just put in your Moxfield link for your deck list. Bang, it's all there digitally, so you can play just with a €15 investment, I think it is.
Yeah, something like
15
that.
euros for the software. So they invited me to Discord to listen to them and watch them play, and that was it. So I definitely think that the best way, as you're saying, to get in is to socialize with players and try and seek these local game stores.
So speaking of local game stores, which 3 game stores are we talking about here?
So there is the store in Msida, Forbidden Powers.
Yeah.
That one is aiming at organizing a monthly one with sort of like an invitational tournament at the end of the year.
Speaking of, on the 7th of April.
On the 7th of April, yes.
Which we will all be attending.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes, if you want to meet us, come check it out.
I will be winning.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Okay.
You say Nathan's playing, so I don't know.
I've only ever lost to Nathan so far in tournaments.
You
so
played against Ed though.
I beat him.
Ooh.
How many times?
Ed in tournaments?
Yeah.
Once in the final table.
Okay.
I had 2 void winnowers out. How can I lose with 2 void winnowers? I think that's a bit of a...
Stranger things have happened.
Yes.
I'll stop, Chris. Don't worry. Then he wins next turn.
What are the other 2 shops?
There's also Mystical Taverns, which recently opened, I believe, in Asha.
Yeah.
They will also be organizing a few tournaments in the coming months. We're currently discussing with the staff there to obviously be able to schedule events and things of that sort. We do obviously have to follow the schedule of the other games, their releases, and these things. And finally, there's also Games Plus, which is a bit more recent in the scene. We've just had a tournament over last weekend. They have a massive gaming area, so in the future, should the scene expand, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to host everyone in the area. And they're also sort of showing that interest for these monthly events related generally to cEDH. Overall, I think in terms of Magic formats, currently cEDH is the healthiest in Malta. With the addition of things like Magic Arena and things of that sort. Standard, Pioneer, even Modern, they sort of like died out a bit in Malta.
Modern's mainly Magic Online nowadays.
Exactly. People still play it. It's just that I can qualify for tournaments internationally online, so why am I gonna have to waste time going out there myself? And
That a Maltese player recently qualified that way through Arena, and then she went to play in paper. And I remember she came to Forbidden Power to ask about playing in paper, and she's like, "I've got no cards. I just play on Arena. What do I do?" You know, so it's.
I believe she ended up borrowing some cards from,
Yes,
from Albert and stuff.
But just to prove Nathan's point that it's true. These formats are being taken over by digital.
Commander still has a lot of social sort of like environment. We've mentioned politics a lot throughout this video already, and that's a very, very important element. Especially certain decks, they need that in order to bring themselves to the table, because sometimes you play this one card that screws someone over, but you don't want to screw them over because you need them to help you to stop someone else. So like that, meeting up regularly, going to game stores. I mean, at this point, you go to any of those 2 game stores in the weekend, you're gonna find at least 1 table playing cEDH, 2 tables playing cEDH. You probably see a few of us as well. So,
or at least high-powered Commander.
Yeah.
At least high-powered Commander, there is games going on.
The mentality is moving a lot towards that. So with more consistent tournaments of that sort, we're sort of like trying to push and encourage for people to not just pick up a deck and play it once a week or things of that sort, but to like invest themselves a bit in it. It does help us that sort of, since building a collection takes a bit of time, you focus on one deck, and like that, even when they get to play in an event or things of that sort, you sort of have someone that's focused on one strategy, not someone
naturally
playing like 10 exactly, not someone that's like playing 10 different decks. So even the experience, the environment, everything, it gets quite heated, especially when then everybody knows everybody and things of that sort.
Definitely.
I mean, even in terms of color, James, only recently is going out of his red shell. James plays mono red decks exclusively, and so any mono red cards, James knows about it, he has it, but now he's opening up to blue and black. You need to start finding more.
Yes, it was really surreal.
And you've been playing way longer than I have cEDH, and I have a lot more staples in different colors than you have.
My first cEDH deck was Godo, Bended Warlord, and I still play him to this day. I remember I had started that deck. My initial investment was of €25 total. With budgeted cards and but we built up from that.
For sure.
But now I'm starting to branch off to different colors as well. So, but yeah, it's how you're comfortable as well.
Yeah.
So there are monocolored decks, but clearly from what you can see on the international meta, okay, the best performing decks
are not monocolor.
Exactly.
There's one monocolor, I think, in the top 15. It's Magda.
Magda, okay.
Magda's in the top 15.
linear,
She's 12, I think. But Magda has a lot going for her as a commander. Also, red, although it's not one of the best colors, it has Dockside.
Yes.
Which unfortunately, it's a very good
It's a
card.
meta-defining card.
Yes.
Ever since it was printed. Moving on to a subscriber submitted question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alessio, for giving us this great question. So obviously you guys are on a team, and there are many benefits to being on a team. Obviously you get to discuss the meta, discuss different decks, have an actual play group to practice your decks. But since it's a multiplayer format, and obviously you can't always guarantee who you're going to end up in a pod with, what steps do you take to ensure the integrity of the format and maintaining that and preventing collusion? Because obviously you can end up in a pod where it's three of you guys who are on the same team against some random stranger. You know, how do you prevent that aspect?
You can't really prevent it. It's part of the game.
You can work against it. So one of the games I won in cEDH, I was playing against 3 people from the same team. And the idea is that obviously if you're participating in an event, it's in the interest of every player still to win. You can decide to concede a spot to your teammate, but then if they qualify and you don't, you spent as much money as they did to participate, especially if you need to travel and things of that sort, but you didn't end up getting a result.
Exactly.
Some teams will reason that it's still better than the person that's not on a team winning. For me, that didn't happen, and we all played it out. The community, since it's a format that's very community driven, sort of like has adapted this idea where if you're going to put a bad image on yourself or on your team, that image is going to linger.
That's it.
For instance, jumping again on the argument of politics, sometimes players will do certain deals and then they don't keep them. And then they participate in another event like 6 months later, and someone's like, I don't trust you because I remember this and this happened. And it's like, you missed your shot. So now you're going to have to accept that you're going.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an aspect of table memory.
Exactly.
There's this.
Plays a part in a 4-player.
There's this thing though. Collusion becomes a bit problem in international events. When we're playing locally, everyone's there to win. Especially if it's between us, we're going hard against each other.
I want to beat them more than beat you guys.
Exactly.
They're not.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather like someone else wins than someone from my team. Not because I don't want my team to win, but because
I want to be the best player in my team. That's what matters. I don't care who wins. I want to finish above all of these assholes.
But like when you compete internationally, at least from my experience, there was this side event when I only went once. Just saying. But there was a side event that we attended, and I remember this particular game. We were 2 Portuguese, myself Maltese, and 1 Spanish. The Spanish player was playing Oswald. One of the Portuguese was playing a Winota deck. I was playing my Kodama Brew, which Nathan mentioned. It's my baby deck. Leave it alone.
What do we say that Kodama as a commander is better in the 99? Any deck.
No, that's what you say. Okay?
No, that's what Nathan says. Any deck with Kodama in the 99 is inherently better than Kodama.
It does the Kodama thing better.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, and the other Portuguese, I forgot. I think I was playing Don Waker Tracios, something like that. But basically, we were in this side event, and this Winota guy, he was so salty. Like you have no idea how salty. This guy was just like this big mean guy. Like, don't want to say hi, don't want to shake hands, just sat down there. He started speaking Portuguese with the Portuguese player, and I said, "Can you speak in English, please?" And he said no. Like literally just outright no.
Wow. Nah.
Yeah. And basically we played the game, and my Kodama deck is a stacks deck basically, and I screwed him over with like another or something like that. The Oswald guy was just chilling. I stopped the 2 Portuguese players from winning, and I was getting ready to win. Oswald, for those people that don't know, the Oswald deck has a lot of like artifacts. He wins through artifact combos. And the Winota player had artifact removal. After I asked him many times, do you have artifact removal? Do you have artifact removal? No. He knew that he can't win. He knows that I'm probably going to win, and he knows that he can't win because of me. So what did he do? Instead of remove a combo piece from Oswald, he just like wasted like this 3 mana artifact removal on my Lotus Method. Now that is like BM to the max.
But that's good for the draw.
No, he literally gave the win to Oswald just so that it doesn't give it to me. That is where collusion comes in.
Yes.
They literally like said, we're not letting this guy win because screw him.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
But still, that is not, because I think what he asked is that there's an agreement in the team, for example, so that they win. You know,
I won't waste my removal on your Kinnan.
Even if they weren't in a team, he would have still done it, I believe.
I don't believe so. I think I stopped both him and the Portuguese players as well. They had spent an entire game just playing, and this happened a lot.
Well, then there's also the debate of, did he just make a bad decision, or did he purposely make a bad decision?
So the problem of accusing someone of king making, which is that's what it's called essentially,
exactly.
of king making is I can give you an example. At Mystical Tavern, there was a moment where I tunnel visioned on Nathan's board, and I gave the win to James in a final game. Not gave it, but I opened the door for him.
Yeah.
And Nathan was like, "Why did you do that?" And I easily said, "I didn't realize." So it was very clear that I had tunnel visions on one enemy and not my board.
That's just a misplay.
It's a misplay, which happens, and it happens. But then there are moments where right now in the cEDH scene, there's big complaints that once players in a tournament get 2 wins, they start agreeing to draws. So they don't even play the game. They say, it's turn 1, we've shuffled up, the round started. Hey guys, we've got our 2 wins. If we draw out for the rest of the tournament, we're guaranteed a place in top 16. That is collusion inherently, because you are using the stats of the tournament.
If you're in a position where you're going to be top anyway,
that's going to be a problem. We just ran into that problem in our own tournament, where when our tournament, the way it works, there's win rate plus the tournament win rate, and it's this weird thing. And it came to points where it's like, well, that guy isn't doing well in the tournament, but his deck's got a good win rate in the overall season. So we're using outside information to affect our decisions within the tournament. So
it's part of the game.
It's part of the game, unfortunately, because it's multiplayer as well.
That's it. If a 4-player pod, it's almost impossible. Like, just generally at the table, if you, like you said, you're the one who stopped those 2 players, they decided, well, then you're not winning.
Exactly.
Full
It's
stop.
going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
It will happen. You can't really avoid it.
So, Chris mentioned that the 2 players were speaking in Portuguese. Now, for example, in this particular tournament that we went at, there were judges present, okay? So, when something like that happens, okay, at that point, I would have just called a judge. How it works is that you raise your hand, you call the judge, and the judge comes. And there
Like
you
a
can
teacher.
explain to the judge. You can tell him, listen, they're speaking in Portuguese. I asked them to speak in English, and they said no. He would do something about it. The judge would do something about it. And if they still refuse, either a warning or DQ,
Or a penalty or
whatever.
something.
Yes, you can't just whisper to someone in their ear.
Yeah.
I have this card.
You can't do that.
Even if you reveal a card, you have to show the whole
Yes,
table.
Once you reveal it, yes, you have to show it to everyone.
So you can't say, look, I have this card.
100%. So from that aspect, it's difficult. Let's say I'm in a team, we're 3 against 1 person, okay? And before the game, we said, okay, guys, one of us has to win,
That's
okay?
it. There's only one winner.
But there's only one winner, and that, I think, it makes it difficult to try to follow up on agreements that we had beforehand. Speaking as for our team, personally, we try to keep it very sportsmanlike, okay? And whenever we go on a game, especially even these tournaments and tournaments abroad, we try to do the best we can, okay, with what we have, even if we end up on the same pod, okay? Just go for it as usual.
As you would any game against any player.
I mean, locally, we play against each other all the time in pods with people who aren't in the team. And as Nathan said, I focus Nathan. I want to make sure I'm beating him. It's also an element of, because we all know each other's decks.
And how we play.
And how we play, I know what Nathan's doing. So that inherently
he's going to be a problem.
That inherently makes me focus him. Plus, at the same time, by us playing against each other, and I mean, since as far as I'm aware, we are the most active cEDH team in Malta, Nathan's got the most experience. So I'm generally going to worry about him than the player who's not in the team, because Nathan knows the format more than this other player does.
You know,
probably. There's a chance that this other player's god tier from Italy or somewhere else. I have no idea, or even from Malta. But the likelihood is that Nathan's going to be the problem, and then he wins, and then I cry. That's a story for another day.
You should wear it like a badge of honor.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Well, no, it makes a lot of sense. This is, as you said, there is only one winner, so it's very hard to be like, hey guys, let's make sure we gang up on that guy, because 2 of the people in that deal are just not going to come out good either way.
And you know what? If I'm making that deal, I want to win as well, so I'm going to say yes for now.
And then maybe,
Also, when judges are present, you can call them for anything, really.
Yes.
So if you notice that there's something fishy, okay, maybe a blatant king-making issue, okay, you can always call the judge. First, you can tell the players, but if they don't want to listen, okay, you can always call the judge and try to sort things out.
They call the judge for the stupidest stuff.
I mean, to be fair though, Magic is a very complicated game as well in general.
Yeah, but like
even for
you hear some
rulings,
question, you start the tournament, say players, you may begin. Literally, they're just shuffling, and it's turn one. Judge.
Even small things. cEDH is a format where essentially, if you're playing a permanent, it's generally going to have some form of static effect. So let's say you've got Opposition Agent and Aven Mind Sensor out. That simple interaction of, so the opponent searches the library, do they search only the top 4? Well, yes, because they're actually controlling the search. So even in small scenarios like that, you need a judge present to have someone say, this is the ruling.
This is when there are
because you can't use your phone. You're not allowed to use your phone. If you touch your phone, that's considered cheating. You can look up your deck list. You're not allowed to look up your deck list. No. You need to go in and know your deck list off by heart. So you can't have access to your phone handily to look up the ruling on Scryfall or Reddit in these big tournaments.
In Malta,
yes, because there's no judge.
Of course, you can take paper with you and write notes there and then, okay? So, for example, if someone reveals a card from the center, say, okay, that player has this mana cost.
When I used to play more modern, I used to have a small etch and sketch that I would like write down for life total and cards that revealed. Because it was much easier.
That's actually a very good
it was really
advice,
easy to take.
We don't have that habit of doing it, but that's something that going forward we should be doing. Like taking notes is very important.
It's a very standard thing. Standard, everyone's
in tournament I do, but when we play against each other and in tournament just against each other, I know the deck list already.
I know what's in your hand before you know.
Yes. No. There are many times where, because let's say there are 3 of us right now that play Kinnan in the team. If I see someone tapping Chord of Calling for X equals 5, I know they're getting Seedball Muse. Yesterday, I got X for 3, and Nathan said he's getting Manglehorn, and that's exactly what without any communication or anything, because we've played against each other so many times now that these interactions.
You know what to expect from the
so there's no need to write it down. But in tournament, yes, when I play against people that aren't in the team against decks I don't know, I definitely write it down. I need to.
For sure. It's very information is the ultimate weapon, really.
Tournaments in Portugal, I always have a pen and paper right next to me.
Okay.
You should.
Good practice. Well, guys, thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything else.
Any final thoughts that you would like to share?
What would you like to tell the Magic the Gathering community in Malta?
I have one thought about cEDH. That this is also what got me into cEDH when I started. These guys told me, I told them, like, it's a format that ends on turn 2. Right, that's a very popular thing. But it's a very popular thing that you hear, because there's also decks like Rogsai that ad nauseum's turn 1, and then you look at it as you haven't even taken your turn. You haven't even played a land. So that can be frustrating. But I think it was Nathan again told me. He said that I'd rather play a game that ends on turn 3, but I've played the same amount of cards I would have played in a standard game that went to turn 28. In those small amount of turns, because we're playing at instant speed and higher power. So, and also you've got like stuff like Gemstone Cavern, so you can play before your turn. So these little elements, yes, if a game does end on turn 2, it's still going to be a 45-minute game where you've interacted and you have played.
And we're relevant.
And we're relevant. Well, sometimes you keep a hand without any blue, like Chris likes to do. But and then you do nothing for the rest of the game.
A hand full of blue and no blue mana.
Exactly. So these things happen. But it's important that, yes, there are games that's going to end on turn 2. There have been games where I played Rogsai going first and I win because I had it all. But a lot of the time, especially in the current meta where it's getting slower and slower, as Nathan said, in America and Europe, it's very mid-range. Tivit is a 6-mana creature, and it's one of the best decks. Timna Crom, 3 mana and 5 mana. Big mana cost.
Did they win like turn 5 or turn 4?
You try and combo out turn 5, but at the end of the day, you're happy to sit there with a full hand and wait.
Just value, of course.
So it's not a turn 2 format. It can be.
Yes, of course.
But that's also Legacy. I've also played Legacy and Vintage, and those you play Library of Alexandria turn 1 and you go crazy. So I think that's an important thing to take away.
From my end, what I want to say is if there's anyone that's interested in cEDH, feel free to reach out. You're probably going to see us at the game stores. If you don't see us there and you're interested, just reach out to us on social media. We'll probably, like, some of us will reach you. We're very, very eager to meet new people who want to join. Even if you're just like a new player or have never played Magic, we have ways of getting you to the format. Okay, so we can start it off like from rock bottom. So if you're like, even if you've never even played Magic before and you want to try and make your way to the top, like Ash in Pokemon, you know,
you want to be the very best.
Exactly, like no one ever was. Exactly.
I got tricked. Originally, I was building Magducks. I was like, it's monocolor, not that expensive. It's red, a lot of cheap staples.
Yeah.
And then they said, here's Kin and Dan, blue-green, and it has all of the blue counter spells, expensive. And I said, all right, now I have to build this. It happens.
And you haven't looked back.
No. Kin's my baby.
You're welcome. So feel free to reach out to us. We're very active. We're very passionate about this. Don't be afraid to try this out. It's not, don't listen to people who tell you that cEDH is just like this really rigid, like we're not. We're just a bunch of idiots that like to play with cardboard, and that's it, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. You can find us, as they mentioned, at the game stores. We're also going to be showing up at almost all of the local tournaments as well. We obviously need to participate ourselves in order to help them grow. And don't be afraid to reach out if you have, for example, deck ideas or things of that sort. The community is very open to discussing these things, not just with us, but even on forums online like Reddit. There's always a space for discussion. So don't let the fact that you might not know anything about the format scare you away. There was a point where even we knew nothing about the format.
We only just got into cEDH last year.
Yeah, and I suck at it.
It's all right.
I don't know.
We've all been there.
We played. You
you've
beat me in one game off camera.
Off camera.
On camera, there's no.
Camera, you face super thin.
Yeah, exactly. No, but even in terms of getting into the format, we're always going to be around, and if you ever need to reach out, we're always going to press going on the tournament.
Yes.
So
Can the people out there reach you anywhere online and social?
we don't have a Sylvan Engineers portal right now, I don't think.
No, but we should do.
Yeah, we have to do it. We'll do it eventually. But if you ask
It
about
might
those
be
people,
there.
yeah.
By the time you're watching this, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, so there will be a link below this video.
Eventually.
Whenever that's online.
Whenever that's online.
To contact us, you can also contact
Of course, we'll pass along any messages you may have.
No worries. Yeah, so I thank you for this opportunity to speak out about our team and the cEDH community.
Thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure, guys. Honestly, we love playing against you. We love having you here.
I love hanging out with you guys. Learn a lot, play
And we
Magic.
hope some people out there from the community get into cEDH because of this. Because we do want to grow the community. It's growing every day, and hopefully one day we'll have a massive scene where we can have big proper tournaments just of locals.
Yeah,
that's it.
That'd be great.
That's it. Hey, and again, just to reiterate, we're going to be all of us on the 7th of April in Forbidden Power. It's for the cEDH tournament. Some of us will not be able to participate, but we will be there regardless. So if you want to hop on and meet the guys and meet us as well, or see us, maybe play some casual Commander with me. We'll
watching tournament games is fascinating.
Watching tournament games,
that's when the sweat comes out.
We're actually going to be recording the final of the tournament, which then will be up as a video format as well. So maybe there's some extra commentary that we can do on that as well.
So we have to get there as well.
Yes, you guys. I hope to see all of you guys on the final. But that being said, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you guys for coming once again.
Thanks so much.
This has been Casting from Exile. So catch you later.
See you guys.